Howdy folks, today is September 5th, time is 6:03. Welcome to the Telecom Advisory Committee meeting. First item on the agenda, well I guess it'll be the second, is the approval of minutes. I noted the correction, the name. Did everybody else have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
Did we also push last? We have two to approve.
Yes, we did. And from the, so last meeting, we held off from approving the minutes from the month before. I don't think there were any corrections that need to be made to that,
No, I don't think so.
but we do need to officially approve them. So would anyone like to motion to approve the minutes from the July meeting?
Motion to approve minutes for the July meeting?
All in favor?
Aye.
No one's here for public speak.
Unless...
I don't really have anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just pointing out, we did have public.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, actually, no, never mind.
Yep.
Something that I thought it was
All right, so moving on. Agenda item 4, we had a conversation last meeting about potentially sending an invitation to the police department or fire department and or the mayor come to our October meeting
Yeah.
and talk about the police and fire signal wires.
Yeah. So I'll let you know where... Oh, sorry, I should close this. So where we are with that is done a little bit of research on it. What's basically going on is our contract establishes that there's a space on the lines that's used for signal wires, for police and fire signal wires. Or that's reserved for that. So I talked to Chief Alberti about it, and he said, we don't have any signal wires, and the fire department might have some old things up on some poles that they don't really use anymore, but we don't use that right of way at all. So I said, would you be open to potentially talking about how we might use something like that, or collaborate in a way that we actually get to use that right of way, because that would obviously substantially reduce our make ready work. And he said, yeah, I'd be happy to discuss it. I also chatted with our former member Greg Howe, who recently left his position in Greenfield. The position
On the reservation.
Yes, he's now working for the Mohegan tribe as their IT director. But he was saying that Greenfield is basically doing just that. They're using that that language to just put stuff up, which is dramatically reduced. They said that I don't recall off the exact top of my head the details, but he said that the way that they did it was not exactly official and might in the long run like cause some consternation. But so far, like Comcast, which is the established cable provider up there, has there isn't currently a lawsuit. Like they're in talks with Comcast and with Eversource and whatnot about that stuff. But the point is that I might not be able to rely on it, but it's possible that would work. I also received a sort of random call from a guy named Sean. That's his last name. He is the Westfield. No, sorry, the South Hadley. They're getting their MLP, or their fiber up and running, and he is the guy who is working for them. Sean Fitzgerald. He used to work at Westfield, and then he moved over I floated the same idea to him, and he's like, that'd be pretty cool, but there's sort of this legal liability involved, so we're not sure if we would go down that route, but it is kind of interesting. I think it's something that personally is worth looking into. If Greenfield has pursued a sort of similar course, because they have the same language for their polls.
Sure.
If we could work out a system where we, by the way, I'm dealing with this horrible toothache, so if I get a little distracted, I apologize. If we could work out a system that allowed us to allow our public safety departments to use some sort of signaling across the fiber to, for instance, allow people who don't have anything but a cell phone to somehow call in the case that the cell phone lines went down, or allow them to connect people's burglar alarms to it, or something like that, where we could plausibly say we are providing a public service and allowing information to get to the police or the fire that wouldn't be able to get to it. One second. We might be able to save potentially millions of dollars in make-ready costs.
And time.
And time. Sorry, were you going to say something?
I think it's possible that we make the case that fiber optic doesn't require that much of it could be like completely a separate electric system, because it doesn't require that much electricity, if any, to transmit, and therefore it could be a backup for like if the power goes down and everything and the phone system is down and the wireless system is down, and like we could have a backup if and like obviously we have the police have like walkie-talkies, but like you can't transmit like vast amounts of data on the walkie-talkies. So if there's like something that you need to like a MRI that needs to go someplace or something like that, that could be a
tie it into the emergency broadcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure. I mean, there's probably. Sorry.
Oh, I just had a point to make next, which was. So it occurs to me that because this language is already in the poll contracts, it's entirely possible that there's already a space that that's available that wouldn't require cables to be moved in order to make available that space.
Sure.
So, while it could be a money-saving thing, we could probably avoid the entire legal thing if the people who have put up the polls have already respected those contracts, and therefore you don't have to have them come out and move them. But I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just wondering if it might be the case.
So part of the reason we have to do the poll survey is to find out how many polls would have to be replaced.
Exactly.
Presumably there's going to be plenty of polls that don't have to be, and this would only come into case where there's not enough room on the poll for that already.
So it might be all I'm saying is it might be a moot point, because we might do the poll survey and say, oh, we don't need any new polls, and there's already room for fiber to
And it's not only the poles that need to be replaced because there isn't enough room to move the lines to create that space. Even if you have to move you can keep the pole, but you still need to move the wires. There's still that cost, which I think is
Right, that's true.
I think they say like $500 to $750 a pole.
I think that was the rough estimate.
And then we didn't even get an estimate for what it would cost if you had to replace the pole outright.
Right.
Which would be, I feel like that would be
Thousands of dollars at least.
5 to 10.
Your point about legal liability was addressing Comcast and Verizon.
Well, it would be, I guess, I feel like Eversource would probably be the big one because they own the poles. Eversource and Verizon, because they own the poles. So like, let's just say that they signed that agreement, and then that in some cases, with all good intentions, they got swept up and put a bunch of stuff on the poles, and now if we came in, they don't have that space. Well, at that point, we would be able to say, well, look, you're contractually supposed to keep a space for us,
Okay.
so it's not on us to buy that new pole,
All right.
that's going to be on you guys. And at that point, if they said, well, we don't really believe that your use of this qualifies under the, under what we have, then it could potentially be a liability. And I think, I mean, it's also entirely possible that they've been really, really diligent about leaving that space open and there's not a problem.
Yeah, do the police and fire currently have wires up in that space? No,
No.
nothing at all.
Nothing.
But is there anything specific meant by signal wires that would be?
Well, it's just vague in that one section said police and fire, and then in another section it just said municipal, right?
I believe that the language, and I could call it up if you do, but I believe that it said that they need to keep a space open for police and fire signal wires, and that space shall be used solely for municipal purposes.
Right.
So, I think what my understanding is what Greenfield is doing is they're saying, well, what we're doing is municipal purposes, but they're not even trying to make this something that plausibly has anything to do with police and signal. My feeling on this, and I don't know what you guys would think, but I strongly feel that since that is the contract, we are bound to honor that contract. If we want to use that space, we have to be able to demonstrate that there's a legitimate public safety benefit to doing so. I just feel that that's the right thing to do, in addition to probably the way to keep us out of legal trouble.
Can I read it for the committee?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it says, your petitioners agree to reserve space for one cross arm at a suitable point on each of said poles for the fire and police telephone signal wires belonging to the municipality and used by it exclusively for municipal purposes.
As opposed to-
That telephone makes it a little bit, I guess, what's the word I think you're,
So my thought is, what if we just had like a phone on the wall?
Yes.
Like a corded old school phone on the wall. It had one button, which was 911, right? And what we would say is that this future MLP would plug this thing, like would come over, and for any fiber subscriber, they'd put it in for free. For anyone who doesn't want to be a fiber subscriber, we put it in at cost. And that way, if you're like me and you only have a cell phone, well, say you have kids and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm nervous. What if for some reason my phone died and I needed to call 911? You could just get this phone hooked up to your house, and you'd never pay a bill on it. But the only thing you'd ever be able to do with it is press the one button, and
From under a bell jar.
Yeah.
right, or maybe you could make it honestly, like you could probably carry. I mean, you could easily, I think, carry telephone signals over fiber. So you could make it so that, like, yes, this is a functional phone.
But I don't think you can carry analog telephone over fiber.
But it doesn't say analog.
Huh?
It doesn't say analog.
No, but I'm saying if he's putting an old style push button phone in, that's not going to go over
Okay, so
fiber.
maybe that won't work. But okay, so fine.
But it was a good idea.
I mean, I just thought it was a cool aesthetic.
Yes.
But if you just had like a voice over IP
Sure,
like
sure.
phone,
Exactly.
and you could say you
Probably
can
be cheaper.
you can right, which would probably be cheaper anyway. But we say like, okay, so you can use this as your phone, and you can just pay a phone bill and have this as a
But
phone.
it will always,
Or for free, we will never charge you, and we'll always be able to call 911.
just like any old cell phone you pick up. even if
Right.
it's-
I mean, that would be, as a parent, like, my kids have no way to call 911 right now unless they, like, they can't even FaceTime 911, but they have no way of, like, that's a concern that has yet to be addressed that I have seen by any municipality.
So the big problem I see with this is the fact that you want a 911 system that's not dependent on power.
Well,
Because if the power goes out, you can't call the police, you can't dial 911.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that the telephone system is currently independent because when the power has gone out at my parents' house, the
Yeah.
The analog phones still work,
Yeah.
but
You'd
we're
have-
talking about a VoIP phone now.
This would,
Yeah, but
you'd have to have like backup
I would think
to
that
power
you
the
could
nodes.
that in like if the court system like had its own power supply, it could there would be enough power to go through the fiber optic to send it.
That's provided the fiber optic system still had its power working.
Yeah,
If power goes out,
But,
you know,
but fiber optic doesn't rely on power. It's
well, it's gotta have some power to light the light.
Yeah.
This is implementation of details, let's not get
Okay.
hung up.
Oh,
Yeah, let's not get too bogged
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
But for what it's worth, obviously we
Yeah,
want our
definitely.
system to have emergency backup power, and presumably a phone could have
Yeah.
a battery.
Battery.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I think, and probably almost everyone in this room is closer to being an engineer than I am. But I think that this is something that if we got some smart people together, we could probably figure out. And that's to say nothing about like alarm systems. That's to say nothing about like, could you set something up like this so that if somebody's like CO2 alarm or their fire alarm went off, that it would send a signal. I mean, maybe
I'm
not.
sure the fire
Could
department
also be
would
those
want
fire
that.
boxes, call boxes they used to have on every
Right.
block
Right, yeah,
or
you
something.
could set it up, yeah, you could literally set it up to say that we'll run some call boxes so that if something happens downtown. Like, I mean, I'm up for literally whatever idea, and I'm really interested to see what public safety, I mean, it could even be something like you set it up to be able to send critical signals from like our water treatment stuff or whatever. Like,
Sure.
Yeah,
Of course.
there's a lot of cities that have that like you make use of like Internet of Things, and that those Internet of Things need a backbone to do things, and those Internet of Things are like for safety things. So
Yeah.
Could you tie it into anything that might power some more sophisticated crosswalk type stuff? Or is that
Oh.
you would need power for the like legitimate power line for that?
I think you probably
You could power like an LED type
When
light
power
over
goes
there.
down, traffic lights go down, so I assume crosswalks are up too.
So this is I think all a little bit beside the point, because I think the opinion I'm most interested in hearing regarding this is from a lawyer.
Right.
A municipal lawyer. And
Yeah.
and it may be as simple as the fire and police department say, yeah, we want that right of way. Like,
Yeah.
make sure it's available, and then being like, oh, you other municipal department, you're welcome to use it. Like it may be, that might be the only requirement.
Right.
And then it's like, great, we're good.
We don't even necessarily, it could be literally a situation where they say like, yes, we'd like this.
Yep.
And without any justification about how they're going to use it at this moment, it's fine.
We would like to have this as
Yeah.
a municipal asset. that
And then
we
they
can
give
utilize.
official permission for it to be
Yeah.
used for fiber.
And yeah, it could be something where it's just like, hey, if we can use this right of way, we'll cut you a check to buy a new cruiser once a year, and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know, but I do think it would be a cool thing to do to get
Totally. Yeah.
police chief, fire chief, city solicitor, preferably mayor,
Yes.
to sit down with us, probably in a bigger room, and discuss this issue, because I mean, like, maybe it won't work, but if we could figure out a way that that it serves a legitimate purpose, and that it also frees us up from having to pay, to make a bunch of spaces, then I mean, the cost savings could be enormous, and more.
I think we should probably refer to a lawyer, because it's possible that legalese leaves room that any municipal purpose is
Legitimate.
is valid, and we're going to be, it's going to be a municipal purpose. So it may, you just need to find a lawyer to pass it by, and then
Well, and the city has a lawyer.
yeah.
Yes.
And he's a very good lawyer.
Yeah.
And he's a very cautious lawyer. So I mean, I've worked with him on a bunch of city council stuff, and I have a very, very high opinion of our city solicitor.
Can I ask one other question?
Yeah.
Greenfield, so did they, when they were using it for that purpose, did they have to have Eversource or whomever has control of poles move stuff around for them, or was there already that right of way reserved?
You'd need to chat with Greg.
Okay.
I got lunch with him, but we didn't have like a very, very deep conversation. But it's been something I've been chatting about. I ended up running into a phone engineer at Luthier's a little while back, just that was like talking to somebody else about being a phone engineer, and I was like, can I buy you a beer and chew your like, and talk to you? So we talked for like 2 hours, and he was like, yeah, I don't see anything in this that says you couldn't do it. I think it's worth looking into. So if everyone's okay with it, I will. Yeah, I'll just because I've got a relationship with everyone involved. I'll just shoot an email off tonight and see whether October or November would work for all of those, because these are all people with kind of busy lives. But I figure if we're giving them like 4 weeks notice, it should be okay.
Cool. Did you have a chance to talk to Ashley about this? Because he has lines that go from here to the library, to the schools, etc.
We should bring Ashley in as well.
And whatever way he is getting to his destinations, maybe he may already be on the poles.
Yeah, that's a really great point. So yeah, Ashley as well.
You know, especially going over to the middle school property.
Yeah, I'm not gonna compose this email. I'm just gonna punch all these names into my phone, so that I know to do this the second I get home.
Can you say who's Ashley? Sorry.
Ashley is the IT manager for the city.
Good guy.
Cool. Yeah.
He's the one that helped us and put a survey on the website.
Cool.
So I think we should aim for November. I feel like our October meeting, which is roughly 3 weeks away, we're gonna want to recap our forum. We're gonna, it's just, and it would give these folks, plenty of notice and time.
Do we need to re-up the length of time we're able to operate? Was there a specific end date that the committee had?
I think we had talked about a while ago, or Tom mentioned doing that.
Does the council have to give us more time, or?
Did we even have an end date?
I thought, well, when we originally met, it was a 12-month
Okay.
appointment.
I thought it was open-ended.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was open-ended. It could be.
Certainly find out.
Yeah, I think that it's something that's worth. Look, yeah, I do believe that that's a really good point. I mean, yeah, our ordinance initially said a year, and I think we're basically at a year,
Right.
and we're going to need a little bit more time. So I think that that's something I can submit for the next city council meeting, to just change it to say that our goal, and it actually might, because one thing that has been occurring to me as time has gone on is that the mayor has a strong interest in this project, and also has a strong interest in our feedback. Like, just with everything going on in City Hall, the mayor's not independently going to research a lot of this stuff. So after the report is written, there might be, I think that we might not be a monthly committee at that point, but it might still be good to keep the committee on the books to vet various ideas, sort of like how the school building committee exists. And I mean, the committee might, I mean, at that point, we might decide we don't need 9 people or whatever, but I do think there's there's a reason to potentially be interested in this, like in the continued existence of the committee past being a study thing. To like, if we form an MLP, then like, what's the next steps and whatever. So I want to, I probably want to revise the mission a little bit, and that's something I can submit for the next city council.
Okay.
So I'll do that this next week.
Okay. Any more comment on the agenda item, police and fire signal wires?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on. We're going to review our pretty good draft, I think, of the public forum PowerPoint. Yeah, I wish I could have printed out a bunch
I
of
could
you
also
guys.
go through these on here.
I can read Jason's screen, that's fine.
And you
Stand short.
did you get the email with the percent ones?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so you can just, yep, oh, they're here as well.
Very cool. All right, so should we just go through it page by page?
Yeah, sure.
Everybody see that okay?
I can see that.
Keep in sync.
All right. So general agenda page, pretty self-explanatory. I did submit an official agenda to City Hall. I wasn't sure if you did it or not, but I figured.
Yeah, no, it's good to have that.
Yeah. All right. So a brief overview, the history of the committee, kind of outlining, well, you know, when we were established and what our mission is. I think I'll comment at this point about how important the internet is, how people, the way that they use the internet has changed so much from when it was originally, our system was designed and implemented. In a way, I almost want to mix in some of the slides, although I'm not sure that it would totally make sense to throw them in here, but you know, it was kind of amazing to me how many people said that they use 6 to 10 devices or more to connect to the internet at their homes. You know, and like that's just, that was totally unthinkable only a few years ago. So with the current market in Easthampton, there's another one where like we put a slide in here. This is, you know, we have this slide like later on.
I have a thought on this slide, which is that the font needs to be bigger, and that's my bad.
It looks really good on this
It
screen.
looks good
Yeah,
on Jason.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the printout,
Oh
it
yeah,
kind of
that's,
sucks.
yeah.
does,
It's
yeah.
just because this didn't translate over to
Different font and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was the
strange.
if you go from a different computer, if
If
this
that's
is
not
Helvetic
available.
Annoy, it's not going to it'll just
It
default
looks good
to
on here.
times.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Yeah, I was thinking.
I can
all right,
take your
I won't.
slides and combine them with this at the end and just give you the final presentation, or we can use this computer to project them.
Okay.
I will not make any more comments about font size.
No font wars, we'll be here all night.
I have a comment about this, which is just that I think the first point is a little bit misleading because the vast majority get it through charter, and even a very, very small percent get it through DSL. So I think it's true. It's not an incorrect statement, but
Okay, so
it's like,
Yeah.
it might be worth
Yeah.
like just tweaking the wording there. Like most people get it through charter.
right.
It's probably enough.
Or just show that slide with the text
Yeah.
and then go to this slide
Well, although
as
we
the
need to
next
be
slide, you know, and here's how it breaks down.
right.
Yeah.
Well, we need to be a little bit careful because this is probably not a representative sample.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
That's,
I don't think that's.
so you could say the largest 2 providers.
Right.
Well, the only provider of broadband is Charter.
It depends what you mean by
Yeah.
brilliant.
The FCC was
broadband.
Yeah.
Right, DSL,
Yeah.
These for residential, like in.
Yeah. It's considered a broadband.
it really is.
Okay.
Yeah, which is sad because it's very slow.
Businesses have options, but
Okay.
Yeah.
You could say the only that provides over 10 megabit.
The FCC definition of broadband is hilariously low.
I think it's 300 something K.
It's like not
A
dial-up.
bunch of women playing
Well,
instruments.
there's also the technical definition of broadband and like in broadband there's broadband and baseband and like some people get those confused, but
So any other? So how would you, when you're speaking, are you going to be addressing this natural monopoly idea?
I think that was very well phrased. I have to figure out a sentence or two to say on this, but
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to say it yet.
Well, I think, and this was one of the points that I inserted. My only thing about that was just to say, a lot of people think that Charter has a legal monopoly. They do not. However, no other high-speed internet provider
We'll touch it.
will come in to get half the market share because that's just not the kind of profit margins that they're looking at.
They have a
They'd
de facto monopoly.
Right. They'd have to lay all of the same wires, do all the same make-ready to get half the market. And the reality is, these companies have stated in interviews, they do not come into one another's markets. So you get, it's the same with train tracks. No one's going to lie a second set of train tracks next to the existing set. They could, they're allowed to, they're not going to, and that's a natural monopoly.
But there are lots of markets that do have multiple cable companies.
But they grew that way.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe if you're in a really
In a bigger market.
Dense.
I mean, I think even Northampton has two.
No,
As Comcast.
they have Comcast.
But there are some regions that are served by others, but they don't overlap.
Right.
It's like,
No,
if you live in this
Even within
neighborhood,
Boston,
you have
neighborhoods or townships had one or two. Like I remember we lived in Rosendale and they had RCN and Comcast.
Right.
But that was it. So
And then-
RCN was not citywide, it was in specific areas.
And even then, we're talking in that case about very dense neighborhoods where it might actually be worth it to pick up half the market share. In Easthampton, if they picked up half the market share, they frankly would be profitable, but not the kind of profitable that they're willing to put their time into. And then you have to set up an office in town and hire staff. And,
Is this where you would address the idea of the take rate? Or what were you look like?
I guess my other question is, you're obviously not just going to be reading this PowerPoint. You're going to be making a statement that is in conjunction and supported by the bullet points. Is that sort of the format that it's going to be? Okay.
and to a certain extent, I do not want to be overly scripted.
Yeah. No, I just knew before you had prepared that. Like,
Yeah.
I want to interject just because, to clarify, the definition of broadband is 25 down, 3 up at minimum, which is better than I thought. 3 megabit, 25 megabit.
So as far as the natural monopoly, the other reality is for these companies, if they were to enter all of each other's markets, there's no way that they could serve like the entire nation. It really works out well for them to divide it up, divide and conquer, and then also protects their profit margins. And so it's very mutually beneficial.
whatever. I would quibble about the use of the word serve, but
Serving who?
but whatever, that's fine.
All right, so then to move into models of municipal broadband. So we have to make a transition here from what the current market looks like here into what other cities are doing. And this also kind of is part of, it may not have been written into our mission statement, but certainly we have seen that many municipalities have built their own broadband internet services. And, certainly across the country, but a lot of communities within our own state. And so to, I guess, transition from what it's like here, it's like, well, what are our options? And one of the things that we've seen other municipalities do, such as Westfield, which built, Whip City Fiber, or Greenfield and whatnot. So we could say a few sentences on Westfield, on Greenfield, their example, especially because they formed their own MLP, like we would have to do.
Is it worth putting Holyoke in and just say they just serve a business market?
Was it that thing?
The thing is, the more that I think about it, the more I think that Holyoke's situation is a little bit of a third rail,
Yeah.
because
They have a lawsuit, don't, or
Well,
there's a ballot committee.
there's a group trying to educate, and what they like, they try and be discreet about this, but what they're intimating at a lot of the time is that they don't think. Well, I mean, first of all, wiring a bunch of huge old buildings is expensive.
Yeah.
They don't believe that their customer base could afford it.
Right.
Which is, I mean, outside of the political ramifications of that statement, not the case in Easthampton. Like, I mean, just we have a bunch of little single family homes. That's our model. And so, if you can afford charter, you can afford this.
Yeah.
Is competing technologies on this slide a header over the next few, or is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah,
And I guess my other
Yeah,
question
we gotta change that bullet.
is for Greenfield, you have in parentheses wireless, which to me implies a wireless network over the whole, like a mesh network over the city.
Yeah.
Should that be fiber to wireless instead of?
Wireless.
Fiber to home.
Wireless drops.
Wireless to home.
wireless
Fiber.
drops,
Because
exactly.
I know there are other cities that have instituted
Wireless.
like mesh,
Right.
mesh
Yeah.
wireless.
Mhm.
Also, I think we can take example out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, Greenfield. The thing that's interesting about Holyoke to me,
Yeah, never mind. I think,
Oh, what is it?
I think, the town, it's the town in between Greenfield and Holyoke.
Leverett?
Yeah, Leverett. I think Leverett is a good example of fiber to the home. Better than Westhampton because Westfield because pretty much all the homes have fiber to the home, whereas in Westfield is actually a good example of a town that has both municipal and commercial.
Right, but that's the market that we're
right.
moving into.
Also, Leverett had special federal funding
Right.
that allowed them to do that.
All the hill towns received assistance that we won't
Yeah.
receive.
Right, and the idea is really just to provide an example of this is a way that a municipality has built a fiber optic internet.
Yeah.
You
We've
know,
actually
Yeah.
visited Westfield and
Right.
Greenfield, but not Leverett.
the one thing I'll say about Holyoke that is notable that they felt it was so important that they could build a fiber optic internet infrastructure to serve their businesses because they identified how important this is to businesses, and that by not investing in this, they would themselves fall behind over time. And
Well, we talked to Holyoke, so if you want to put Holyoke as a bullet, I think that there's valid reasons to do so.
Yeah, it didn't seem out of place on the draft that I got that included it.
There's also in two slides from here. There's a very similar thing. Things. If you want to go, there's go 2 slides from here from now.
Yeah.
Well, let's just get to that slide when we get to
Yeah,
that slide.
Okay. So, models of municipal broadband, I can fix up that formatting. I added this slide, the fiber slide, or do you want to continue
yeah,
talking about this slide? Sorry, we'll go back.
well, the only thing we're going to talk about is the competing
right.
technologies.
Yeah.
Charter, Verizon, DSL, and satellite.
Those already exist.
They already exist. People know what they are. Familiar with what they have.
I would add cellular data to that competing technologies list.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I
I
think
would
there's
probably put it before.
You could, or you could put
Yeah.
4G LTE or something like that. This, you got 5G instead of
It would be, what did you say, 4G?
4G or LTE, yeah.
Although-
Just the same thing.
Although, like even 5G still needs fiber
Fiber
to
traffic.
work.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I'm going to point out. A lot of people ask about this. What about 5G? Well, won't it just make it totally, redundant or
Still
whatever?
needs the backbone.
But the reality is, 5G as it exists today, it requires a fiber optic infrastructure in order to function.
Yeah, and I was talking to that guy, Sean Fitzgerald from South Hadley, who, by the way, wants to come in and meet with us at some point. He was saying that he's actually hoping that when 5G rolls into South Hadley, that they'll, rather than have to pay for their entire own make-ready, they'll just pay South Hadley to use their fiber,
But yeah,
Yeah,
which
there's space, yeah.
could be a
Revenue.
Yeah, at least line space from us. Right?
yeah.
the mentality I think, or the fear some people have, is that Easthampton would put up a whole bunch of money up front, and we build this whole thing, and then within like 5 years, 5G is here, and everybody instantly cancels internet to the home service and just has 5G.
That's what I think one resident I've spoken with who works on the lines, is a Verizon employee, I think was, in the same way Stan McCoy was concerned about anything we do is going to be nullified or obviated by something in 5 years, and this is.
I mean, the cable
But the cost
lines
would be-
have served for over 30 years, and in some places longer than that.
The thing is, and like, if everyone in Easthampton is watching Netflix on 5G, it's not going to be, it's going to be worse than what they have, than they did.
That may not be true if it has a fiber backbone.
Well, it has to have a fiber backbone.
Yeah, it just like I've read and listened to a bunch of things about criticizing the marketing of 5G, saying that basically the rates that they are showing where they have people getting 50 megabytes down is that's only if there's a few people on the network, because not most people don't have 5G phones. But as soon as it becomes something that everyone has and everyone is watching movies on, it's not gonna be that much better than anything else that we have.
Right. So there's a bunch of things about 5G. We're not probably going to be able to get into all of it during this presentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the things that I think we figured out is 5G may or may not be all talked that's currently said. It could be a long time before it reaches places like Hampshire County, and once it does, even if it is really great, there's actually a potential that they would actually pay to use our infrastructure rather than building their own.
I would suggest adding to the 5G bullet point on there, fiber backbone, or needs fiber backbone or something, because I think that's an important distinction between what we're looking towards actually doing and towards that thing that would put
Yeah,
replace it.
that's
it
true.
just kind of bridges those.
And it gives a good pivot to the next slide. I would say requires fiber.
What about future technologies too that you've got? What if Charter chooses to upgrade their infrastructure here?
I don't think that'll affect us all that much.
No.
I mean, even if they're competing with us on cost and speed, People hate charter.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, no,
What if?
there definitely, look, there's always going to be an interest in certain parties to keeping your money local. Right, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's totally possible that they might decide it's not really in keeping with their business practice to date to dump $10 million into upgrading something when they're going to be competing with another entity. But they could, yeah, I mean, look, we're not here to tell people this is risk-free.
Right.
Yeah, that's.
I also think, let's not go down the information overload thing in this presentation. If we get hung up on details, we're gonna put
Right.
people to sleep.
Well, if Charter decided to, in
Right,
6
I mean,
years.
this whole presentation should be like 15 minutes tops.
Exactly, keep it
Like,
streamlined and let them talk.
So we're gonna have to go, I mean, we're gonna spend the most time on the survey results.
Oh, no, I mean, of this,
Oh, okay.
before the survey, like these slides
Yeah.
prior to the survey
Right.
results.
So
Yeah, just the primer
right.
for,
we hadn't discussed this, but I thought, given how much we referred to this book in the past, it might be worthwhile to include a quote. I just included 3 that I thought were pertinent. I didn't mean for all 3 to be included. It was just more of a, maybe we can select one that,
So I like these quotes. I think they're really good. My thought in this is that it would be really great if we had a pamphlet or page or flyer at the front when people came in that they could pick up. We could put these quotes on there. We could also put on there some of the feedback that we received when we took the survey.
yeah, I was gonna put together this in a more readable fashion for a report that would
Right.
be put out on the Facebook page, and also put this out as a PDF with that. And we could do that. We could put that. Maybe include the letter that Greg read to the city council
yeah.
earlier on, and it had some
Yeah.
footnotes for stories.
Can I just say, because I put these in this order and I realized I never gave any explanation as to why, because I'm not used to writing PowerPoints that I'm not going to present. What I was thinking about putting the slide here was to basically have these things say, you know, the last one is saying, so look, given our mandate, one of the first things we did is figured out how do other communities get internet to their constituents, and you list all these examples and they say, but the one thing that basically all of them have in common is that they are using fiber. Right. And fiber is this cool technology, so let's take a couple seconds to talk about what it is.
Well, no, totally. And I think we should have a slide here about fiber and show some of the benefits of fiber. I just think that this particular information is not
maybe better suited in another.
Right.
I think you need something that says this is important. This is something we may, like the subtitle of the book says, we're going to miss out on this if we don't have.
Yeah, maybe this should be replaced with a slide that says intro to fiber, or just
Exactly.
like what is fiber,
Right.
and then a couple bullet points that are like that's what
Right.
this is what fiber
Transmits
is.
over a
And you could even you could probably pull
this is
things
great.
out of here.
This first quote describes it in a lay person's terms, like copper wire is this, fiber is
Right,
this.
but to kind of distill that down to like
points.
a couple
Yeah.
points, I think would be
So-
a really good slide.
Yeah.
So could we just have the slide that literally says fiber as a header, and then has this quote with proper attribution as its body, and then that's the slide.
Yeah.
And you don't have to read the slide, the quote aloud, obviously, but you can just say,
Right.
because that's basically what it is. If you want to know what it is, it's
Fiber optic cable or fiber optic network. Like, do you want a picture like they have in the book of what a fiber optic cable
Yes,
looks
definitely.
like?
Definitely.
I remember Grace Hopper came to give a talk at Vassar College, and before her talk, she invented Fortran. She gave out pieces of wire to everyone in the audience, and she said, "Look at the piece of wire that I gave you. What you're holding in your hand is 1 nanosecond."
Wow.
And then she went on with the rest of her talk.
Maybe we should give people little 1-foot lengths of fiber.
Does our library have this book?
No.
Did anyone speak to them about getting some copies?
I got a copy, but it came from,
Into the library?
came into a library.
Okay.
And then they.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I looked for it and no
I just
libraries in our
returned it
area.
like a week or two ago.
Wow.
And,
I asked for, I tried to get it into the library.
Well,
It must
what
be
would
a new
Mass-
acquisition. Wow, that's cool.
what would UMass have something like that?
It wouldn't be surprising to me
What's that?
if UMass had
Yeah.
the book.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe I'll just go out and buy a couple copies and donate
Yeah,
them to the
they were not-
library.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it's a much
I'm sure they would, if we asked them to. I mean, you can make recommendations or requests. I think I actually requested because I tried to see if it was on Overdrive, that e-book service, and it wasn't.
You know.
And you can actually ask, like, if it turns up a result, but they don't have it, you can request that it be.
You know, I got a physical copy through Interlibrary.
I don't even know if Yale, I think it was Yale University Press that put it out. I don't even know if they have an ebook service.
I got it as an audiobook.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know it's on Audible. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll simplify the slide and include a photo. And then, did you want anything else on that slide? Or do you
So
want
I
some
want to
text?
say that fiber optic transmits data over a wire as thin as human hair, that it requires no heat or electricity to function, and a downed wire will not harm you if you were to come into contact with it like other cables would. I also want to say that it brings us simultaneous upload and download speeds, as well as other notable quality of service improvements to current internet infrastructure
Could you
offerings.
write that up and
Yes.
and email it to me?
Yes, I certainly
Okay.
could.
There's
very nice.
two things you might want to bring up that are kind of cool from the book. One of them was saying that fiber that's 30 years old that's up on the lines is still functional. There's no known expiration date for fiber. It probably does at some point degrade, but we don't know when.
And we haven't reached the theoretical limit.
We haven't reached the theoretical limit. In fact, I think that it said in the book, 1/2 of the phone conversations going on at any given time in the world could be carried over a single strand of fiber.
That's a really powerful, yeah.
So it's like there's never going to be a point where Easthampton has information needs that cannot be met.
I think we said that in our
First of all, I
letter.
think some of those points are a little bit, we're currently using fiber to communicate. It's just the last, connecting up to the house is
Like
not
the
fiber,
last mile.
but in like what's on the poles is fiber currently for everything. It's a lot cheaper to use fiber. It's not so much you can have like a lot of most of the world's phones, but as soon as you start doing like video, we could run into data issues, I think Leverett is needing to upgrade at some point because
But not the fiber itself, the equipment at the terminus.
That was
Maybe.
what I was going to say. I think we included that in that initial letter to the city council. That
Right.
was the infrastructure itself. Once it's up, it's
Yeah.
really the terminus.
Westfield's in the same place where they're doing a gig, and now they're like, now with every, like all of the Internet of Things stuff and high speed, like all this like super high def TV stuff, we're gonna have to upgrade our stuff to do 10 gigs eventually, and then eventually we might have to do 100 gigs.
Yeah.
But like all that means is swapping out the stuff that's sending your stuff. I'm sorry, I'm so aggressively non-technical, but
Swap out the thing.
like, but it's like it's like the stuff in the hut that gets swapped out. The actual
wrong. I mean, you're right.
Well, and what did also the point being that is in contrast if you ever got to this point with somebody, which I don't think you get to in this presentation, but that would be that if you wanted to contrast Greenfield with Westfield, it would be that their wireless equipment is going to need updates, maintenance and updates,
Or for that
hardware
matter.
updates more frequently than Westfield's will.
Right.
Or for that matter, like 5G
Right.
is like, if you reach some point in 5G, you might have to actually swap out all of that wireless tech that's on the poles for new wireless tech. Where for us, it's like, all right, take this thing out, plug this thing in, and good to
Now,
go.
the downside to fiber is it's infinitely more difficult to repair when a tree limb comes down on it.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Although the guys in Westfield seem to have their whole method
Yeah, they've got a
for
technique.
splicing things.
Yeah,
Because they said that
but
people
I mean,
were-
you need expensive equipment, and it's time consuming, and the accuracy is critical
Yeah.
in a way that putting a cable splice in, is child's play.
Because they were saying that people kept taking out their connections to homes with a weed whacker accidentally, and they had their guys all like they were doing this regularly. So,
Well, I'm sure.
well, okay, but we're digressing.
Yeah, so
That's the slides.
anyway, I do think that it might be good to note that our national internet backbone was built on fiber, and that to bring the fiber technology to the home eliminates the bottleneck.
That's the last mile problem. Yeah.
Right.
Everybody.
So if people are worried, well, what if fiber is not good enough? It's like, well, the only way that it's not is if we completely replace the entire national internet, backbone.
Yeah. Right. Like you're just not getting the benefits of fiber because everything in Easthampton is fiber and copper, and it defaults to the lowest common denominator.
Right. So next slide is one that was nearby. We talked about possibly doing a map and filling in, or even if it was just Western Mass. But I'm not sure if we were able to do that.
I just need a list, and like I just haven't found like an exhaustive list. They put Northampton on the pending, and that's not entirely fair because I think they've just like started like once again, like they're just trying to be us.
Yeah.
Losers.
I have a question, which is, how necessary is this slide at all, given the one previous to?
This is the reason why I think it's important, is because the other one was saying, here are the people we've talked to, and we figured it out. This is the slide, by the way, when I keep talking about this stuff with the mayor, this is the slide that keeps the mayor up at night, is you have businesses and people who want this stuff. If you look at the communities that Easthampton is considered to be sort of peers to socioeconomically and geographically, they're all doing this.
You
I think
show a
that's-
slide with a map and you've got the same color, and suddenly you're making a ring around Easthampton, and Easthampton is a donut hole.
Exactly.
There's a good story too that, what's the name of the business? A friend of mine just got a job there. It's Myers Information Systems. They make a piece of software that does traffic direction and for television stations. A lot of public television stations use them. And they just moved from Northampton to Westfield, in part because of the fiber, because of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm sold.
I can actually pull that. There was a story in the Gazette about it not too long ago.
I think we cut Northampton from this. They're behind where we are.
Well, you'd say in the same
Right.
stage as we are, investigating or
Or developing, or
pending is just as
pending sounds like the work is-
I was gonna put South Hadley on that list, but it turns out they've actually been
They're moving along.
plowing ahead.
Yeah.
They've got fiber hoods.
Wow.
Not many, but they've got them.
I think there's something missing from this presentation, which is what fiber do we have now in Easthampton? Because we do have some.
Oh yeah, I love. Can we say dark fiber?
It's a dark fiber, but isn't some of it being
We have
used?
lit
We
fiber.
have fiber that's connecting all our municipal.
Right. I think that's an important thing for this
No, I think
presentation.
that's a good point.
You can say existing and add Easthampton and say municipal.
Municipal buildings.
Yep.
Schools,
Right,
library.
and that's not just Easthampton.
That's
That's
everywhere.
every.
That's everything.
You could say like across Massachusetts for municipal purposes or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Eastworks and the other big buildings have fiber.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Do you think so?
I know so.
Really?
Easthampton
So
Media
they're
is
already
on.
wired.
Easthampton
so-
Media is on it.
Yeah.
The RMV is on it.
So if you hooked up, so if we, let's say we built the fiber network and
Okay.
you hooked it up to Eastworks, are you saying that have they got the whole building wired so that every unit in there?
There is a central connection room on the second or third floor where all this fiber comes into and then is distributed throughout the building from there.
Now, who owns
Who's the
that
provider?
existing municipal network in Easthampton?
We do, but it's
city.
really
So would it be would
No, so the municipal network was put in as part of what's called the E-rate program.
yeah.
And it's designed for, municipal business, for education, for libraries. And I don't know if we can simply jump on it because of that.
So it might have to be
But it's like,
overlapping.
this is already.
But whatever right of way
fiber.
is being used,
Yeah.
we could probably use.
Okay.
So is it correct to say municipal government buildings, schools, libraries, that's
Right,
any other
right.
buildings?
That was the E-rate stuff, right?
Is it E-rate?
And probably, municipal buildings, the safety complex and stuff like that.
Oh, right,
also,
right.
So I have an idea. Given this information, what if we, the way that we have it saying existing and pending, what if we swapped those out, added these things, some businesses, all municipalities, and then since Chicopee is the only one in pending, just put Chicopee exclamation point pending.
Yeah.
Right. Or sorry, parentheses.
In development or.
Isn't Hadley doing this also on Amherst?
Not that I know
No?
of.
Okay, I thought, okay.
Yeah. It would be really nice and powerful visual if we could come up with that map.
I can do that, because there's already an SVG on Wikipedia, I think, of the surrounding,
I mean, I have
counties and stuff.
right, and I have like GIS. I can do all that stuff. I just don't have like all the hill towns. Which ones have it? Which ones don't? It's all happening so fast.
Hey, look on
I looked on that thing you sent me. It's 2 years out of date, at least.
even the one on
The Mass GIS.
no Wired West.
Yeah, they don't have.
I couldn't
Maybe we could contact
I could
which
swear I see
city,
something.
maybe they would know.
Yeah, I mean,
I could write.
we can rejoin, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I honestly don't know if you look at a map, like.
People know where these cities are.
Like
in relation.
sometimes I show people maps and they're like, "Whoa, that's where Springfield is." Like I look at maps all day, but like
Yeah, but if you have an example that shows each
Yeah.
of the communities and the boundaries, and then you color
Yeah.
in each of those communities,
Right,
you
that's
start to populate, like it starts to look like, oh, like we don't have it and everybody else is getting it. And
And
it's-
Westfield, Holyoke, and Greenfield are such large cities too, and the impact around us. It's not. I mean,
Does Springfield have an initiative?
no,
No.
not to my knowledge.
that might be in the same boat as Holyoke, where they're like, "Oh, let's do it for businesses." I can see that happening there.
That would be, well, anyway.
But yeah, beside the point.
Okay.
So if we can do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
All right. So then we kind of have to seg into if we were going to pursue building a municipal broadband utility here in Easthampton, what would we have to do? We would have to form a municipal light plan. I'll probably read this whole slide here. And
I think this is missing the information that on its own creating a municipal light plan doesn't cost the city anything.
that's true. And I'll have to say that, be clear. Doing this does not cost anything.
And
I
it does
think we
not.
have to put this on a slide because there are going to be a lot more people who look at the slides online.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
don't come to the presentation.
I think it needs to be on a slide. Yeah.
I was wondering if it's fair to say that it would be, that we would have to do this if at any point in the future the municipality ever wanted to invest in and operate a solar array that would provide utility service to residents, or if at some point the technology was there and we wanted to do geothermal, or if we wanted to do anything in the future involving power
Generation.
or communication utilities, we would have to vote yes to create a municipal light plan.
Yeah.
there would be no ongoing cost if we didn't utilize it until then. It would just be
Right.
in our pocket.
Yeah. Yep.
We'd probably have to appoint a board, sort of like the Board of Public Works. But if we don't, it doesn't need to have any employees until the moment that we decide it needs employees.
Or we could just put it under the Board of Public Works.
No, I think it has to be
It's its own entity.
separate.
It'd be a city
Okay.
department.
Separate in Westfield.
Actually, it needs to be an entirely like separate like corporation.
Right, because what they don't want is, they're very wary about municipalities looting these things.
Going
Which-
back to the general fund.
Yeah, I mean, I was just running some numbers the other day about I got to look at a contract that one of these MLPs has used for other municipalities that want to partner with them. So they're charging $70 a month for internet, and they're saying we'll do everything for you for $40 a month, which means that for every household that gets hooked up, you're getting $30 a month with this, and that's a profit, right? And that's nuts.
Yeah.
So the idea that I mean, obviously you have to bank a lot of that for continued maintenance, but it's you can see where a mayor or a city council is facing a tough vote about health, employee health care, pensions, or something like that, would want to just pull all the money out of these things.
Could we also, the board positions on an MLP are electable positions?
In some communities they're elected, in many they're mayoral appointees.
Okay.
I think that we
But
would
it does-
decide.
It would add a level of accountability that we currently don't have with charter or any commercial.
Correct.
Right. I mean, either there be
Democratically controlled.
Right. So if you were unhappy with your service, you can appeal to board members. You can also.
In fact, that might be nice to add to the third point, is a democratically controlled nonprofit company.
Yeah, Westfield does that, and it actually works pretty well.
They're elected
They're
or
elected. Yeah.
So we could just say, use Westfield as an example. There's one community is a democratically controlled.
yeah, a little bit.
So we can. They should have.
Could we say publicly managed?
Democratic nonprofit that provides utilities.
right, because it's not like you're taking a public vote every time
Yeah,
that.
I would say publicly managed is a better phrasing
Did you say publicly managed?
instead of democratically controlled.
Right. Let's just say controlled, so it's, instead of rhetoric there.
Members can be.
Elected or appointed.
Democrat.
No, it's
better.
democratically controlled. It's
We're all commies here.
community managed.
Community managed? Would you rather have community managed? Does that
It's still
sound?
like publicly managed, but we also just need to be careful how many words we're putting on this.
Yeah.
Publicly managed company. You could say
Okay.
which provides utilities to ratepayers.
So we'll.
I was like which and stuff.
These will be.
Do some
Leading fonts, look out.
Yeah, it's clean up.
It's possible we could, if this is too much, we could split that last bullet point into being its own slide.
That would be
Yeah,
important because you're gonna want to talk about here's what we need to do immediately.
Yeah, I would say this is what a municipal light plan is, and then next one, formation of a
Yeah.
municipal light
Good
plan.
point.
Right, and then we can break it down, So
makes
2 votes was council voted, blah, blah,
Completed,
blah. Yeah.
Right, this is what it is how to get
What's
it.
That'll light
Right.
both.
It would, and then even put a third thing, like, a yes vote does not obligate the city to start this, it simply gives them the option to do so.
To do this,
Yeah.
or that's where you could put or form any other,
Yeah.
future public endeavor, power endeavor. or whatever.
It's not and all.
Yeah, you might even want to break this one up into a couple in the future.
Establishing an MLP requires 2 votes of the city council.
Yeah,
It can even be bullet points,
Yeah.
like how to establish an MLP. 2 votes to the city council, vote from the general public, and then does not cost anything, but
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Has the elections committee finalize
couple days,
the ballot question?
I'm meeting about it in 8 days, and
Okay,
then
so
we're
that's
going to
in a
vote
week.
on it the next Wednesday.
Cool.
So,
So that's coming up.
yeah, and I anticipate, given that we voted twice unanimously to do this, and with the idea being we need to do this to put it on the ballot,
Right.
I would be completely like dumbfounded if we got anything but a unanimous vote.
Sure.
Because why would you vote twice
To do it.
to set us up for this vote and then decide,
Yeah.
like, oh, actually, I don't want us to do
Do we
this?
want to say something about, like, maybe put some check boxes and put a check mark in that one and put open check, like, because we've already done this. The two
I would just put in parentheses, be like, this is
Completed or-
already done, or
Taken this,
Completed.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
completed this year.
completed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fancy though.
Have check marks flying from the side.
Mission accomplished.
I'm gonna need a
Little banner
Can you
comes
pose
up.
for a photo?
Those
Do you have your
words.
flight suit still?
All right.
Alright, so let's move on. Who's ready?
Save.
I really like how you phrased some of these, Tom. You did a really good job. Especially this one. Especially this particular, the first one here. It's being revenue generating, so the big question is how to finance the initial build out.
Right. This isn't a school. This is
Yeah, once we get it
once
up.
we get it, people will pay us money to use it. That's why Charter did it. That's why Verizon did it. Like, so the big question is, how do we get the fiber up on the poles and into the homes?
Right.
You know some people are gonna ask the question that, oh, if this is revenue generating, can we use that revenue so that our property taxes don't rise to fund things like new schools?
And right, and
Yeah.
and if that happens, I mean, the answer, we might want to bring that up to say, like, well, I mean, it'll come up in the, like, we can't discuss it in the public forum, but if it comes up, we will have to say, like, look, it's really, like, you know, okay, HG&E sponsors the friggin' fireworks in Holyoke, so you can do all sorts of, like, there's ways that you can take that money and set up pilot payments and stuff like that, and that's always obviously helpful. But the first goal of the money coming in has to be the continued maintenance and upgrading of the network. If anything, if you've got ridiculous amounts of profit that you don't even know what to do with it, you should
reduce
cut
fees.
the fees.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Like that, but like, I mean, I'm all for saying, you know, oh, the Emily Wilston Library will get a gigantic sponsorship from the Easthampton Fiber or
But
something
also,
like
that money can be moved around, it just can't be unilaterally moved around. It has to be an agreement, it has to be done by the city council, right?
Well, yeah, it
Well,
would
the
have to
mayor.
go into
The mayor and the city council.
The city council needs to authorize the mayor to negotiate in the first place, and then the mayor's able, like,
So it's not like it's like
Silent.
impossible to get, it just needs like a broader consensus of
right.
government.
But we can't. What we can't do is we can't use this money in lieu of property taxes to fund a new school. We can't use this money to give all the teachers the raise that they so very much deserve. Like
In the same way we can't use the pot money.
right, because it's like the first and foremost priority of this money is making sure that everything, that the service gets provided, that there are the resources there to maintain that service and to upgrade it so that it stays cutting edge and it stays competitive. I mean, you know,
Right, but say, okay, so suppose 5 years down the road, this company, this MLP has a few $1 million in the bank for
Right.
revenue or whatever, and fiber has been replaced by teleportation,
Okay.
and that's wonderful, right? And it's free, and the city decides, oh, we don't need to maintain this infrastructure anymore,
Right.
and there's several millions of dollars in the bank from this thing, then the city council and the mayor can say, we're gonna spin this down and we're gonna reallocate this money, or is the money just frozen in ice?
yeah, that's a super good question. If there's like actually a ton of reserves and you just decide, well, We'll wait till the teleportation happens.
Is this
I also think there's a
before cold
limit
fusion
on-
or after cold fusion?
Oh, after.
Okay.
There may be a limit on the amount of money that an MLP can hold in reserve long term. I think that if you are, I mean, I'm not a lawyer and I don't remember it super well, but I do believe that there was some language that if you're over a certain amount that you're holding in your reserve fund, that money would go to the general fund or have to be transferred to the
Is that
general
like
fund.
non-profit? Typically, like you can only have so much money in reserve anyway. Like a non-profit.
Well, that solves the
Hold
problem.
back.
Right, because effectively it is a non-profit.
Right.
Right.
I mean, but I know like
So it's like, okay, if there's a problem with too much money, then the city gets some extra money and it's general
Right,
fund.
right.
Perfect.
So, but just to give you a sense of the scale of these things, South Hadley's build out, they're estimating is going to be 8 to 10 million, which is actually an interesting reality check because they're almost exactly the same size as us. And they, rather than bonding for it, like their MLP just was like, okay, here's the money. Like they just had like $10 million.
Because they already had an MLP that was.
Yeah, because they had the reserves from their electric.
Oh.
And they were their gas and electric.
So
And
it
they're
might
just
be a lot of
like,
money.
cool, so here's the.
But their reserve cap may be much higher because they have a large electrical infrastructure to maintain.
sure.
So,
Same
right,
thing in
of course.
ours. Right,
Right.
right.
That's awesome.
I hope I'm not mischaracterizing that.
No, but
I'm
that
pretty
makes
sure
sense.
that's
Yeah.
what.
If there's like what determined in the Bahamas, like happens here in like and like
You need to rebuild it.
if we we still have like some infrastructure, but if all the poles went down,
Yeah, you'd have to completely.
and especially for like the ones that have that their MLP like is it involves like the poles in like that would be that town's responsibility to.
Okay, so let's get back
Yeah,
to the
so
slides.
Do we want to bring up the issue of that the FCC is trying to let cable companies bankrupt organizations like Easthampton Media, and this could help keep Easthampton Media alive without Charter being involved?
Yes.
That's a great point. The one thing is
And it may turn out to be a law. There is a law in the state legislature that is going through the motions that says that anyone who is using the internet to sell programming has to pay a portion of their income, like Netflix would have to pay a portion of their income
To public access.
to Easthampton Media.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we may have to anyway,
Yeah.
but do we want to mention that this is another reason that this helps the community?
I wouldn't want to scare people and say there's a chance that something that is happening in government right now will bankrupt Easthampton Media.
Well, it's already been passed.
It's already happened. Yeah.
I think the biggest risk to Easthampton Media being bankrupt is that people are cutting the cable. And
So, well, it's the same thing, because basically
What are they replacing it with?
right. But, you know, the FCC regulation that was just passed says that Charter can assign a value to some of the costs that they incur supporting public broadcasting, you know, and deduct that from the money they're paying to the city and to the company.
right, okay, I understand now.
I mean,
I'm gonna keep going back to this. This is a PowerPoint presentation, not a book.
That is true.
You know,
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
keep this thing
Yeah,
straight.
okay.
We can't be
Yeah.
running off the rails
Yeah.
on every small,
Yeah.
not small
Okay.
issue, but every
No, I
side
understand,
issue.
sure,
No,
sure.
but I do think long term, I mean, this is something.
Yeah, that is a
really-
selling point.
Something we would address in our report.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
like, something
Yeah.
we would, and it may come up in the public speak time.
Sure.
And then
And I was looking
address
at
it
this,
after.
you know, yesterday, really trying to think where can I fit Easthampton Media and what we're talking about into this, and I'm not entirely sure.
Well, I mean, just one thing, if there is going to be public speak, I can have our executive director come
Yeah.
Yeah.
and talk during the public speak about that,
That would probably be the best fit.
Yeah.
or have Jim come and talk about
You
it.
can- I mean,
during the
not-
public
yeah,
speak.
Not to minimize it, because it is a huge issue, it's not relevant to building out the system. You know, or our presentation for.
Right, no, I
the
understand
cost
that, but
And need.
But it does, if we do this, we
Yes, it
have
is a
an alternate
mechanism.
income stream.
Yes.
I think it's relevant to the MLP and the fact that the MLP
But
could decide to be a source of funding for local.
Right.
I remember in one of the archived ones that I watched, that was a question if the MLP could
Right. Yeah. It's something
divert
that.
funds.
Yeah. It's something that Greenfield.
Was that resolved?
Well.
It could. So there are a number of communities around the state where the PEG station, like Easthampton Media, is a city department, and they're all municipal employees. So they could be part of the MLP.
They could potentially get absorbed into the
Sure.
MLP
I see.
or something like that.
I remember in one of the early ones, there was some discussion like, could we voluntarily put like $1 fee on the bill? And that was
Right.
sort of in question as to whether the MLP
Yeah.
had the rights to process funds through it on behalf of.
Right, but they could absorb the whole organization
That's
under
a point
their
that I
wing.
hadn't thought of.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I
But
feel
I
like
think
the
public
board.
speak is a good
Yeah,
spot for.
Right.
I'll talk to Jen and, well, we have a board meeting Monday, so
Okay.
I'll bring it up.
Perfect. Is there anything else on the financing slide?
No, I think it's
People
a
happy?
good slide,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So costs. I think it's important to note here that we do need to conduct a poll survey, and
Is-
that we would probably.
I was just gonna bring that up. Is poll survey part of Make Ready, or should we put it
Yeah,
Before
let's
that,
just put a survey of polls.
poll survey, then comma, Make Ready?
It's something that we have to do to really be able to put this out to bid and find out what it really is going to cost.
Maybe we should do a poll as to whether we should do a poll survey.
I'm also, this is off topic and might be something for future, but I'm interested in the feasibility of a volunteer local poll survey. Like how much expertise and money actually has to go.
One town did it and actually developed their own app for it, if I recall.
All you gotta do.
Like I could
They
get
do
10
mix
people
it up.
around
Geotag.
and we
Could you
just
use
kind of crowdsource this
like
thing.
on an iPhone, you
Could be, a coworker of mine pointed out, was it Shutesbury maybe? I forget which, but they developed an in-house. It was a much smaller community with much fewer polls, but
But we've only got 90 miles of road. I mean, I'll do like 3 of them if you guys want. Like,
I know that's not on the agenda, so we.
That's cool.
No.
yeah.
But
no,
I
just
just
shoot
I think they did,
the
like,
picture
recorded the
and then-
GPS, and I mean, it was enough that it gave them an idea. They eventually needed to do like an official one, but it was a good
Yeah.
community-based, like rough.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is it on the cost slide? Is it worth? You said one individual. Is it worth saying?
That was vague and odd to me.
Yeah, one individual. I think it would be
The guy in the
like
corner, or, you know, like I said.
1 8-year-old.
This guy that we found.
One, we could give that. We could give his name. or at
Maybe
least
say
a
one potential
company.
partner.
Yeah, one
Yeah, or
potential
one-
private partner.
Or somebody who has done this before, or
Yeah, right. I think we need
industry
more.
representative, or
Yeah.
something like.
But
Right.
I think we also have to be clear that that was a profit-making organization that
Yes.
quoted us
Yeah,
that.
right. I was going to say one potential private partner.
I like potential private partner. It also has a very nice triple alliteration.
I agree. Yes, I appreciate that as well.
Do we know any other? You mentioned that South Hadley
I was gonna say
facility was
that's
8 to
exactly,
10.
yeah.
Is there
Do we
any
include that?
documentation for that, or that was?
Like, it's a thing that he said on the phone. I don't even have it. in
Well,
writing.
we can say a comparable community in Western Massachusetts.
Westfield, because
Did we have a number for
when I put out the initial cost at 10 to 12 million, John over there said it won't cost that much. And that, I actually have
you
that
want-
on emails that were exchanged.
Do you want to say and then Which
I honestly think the real estimate is 8 to 10
I agree
million like
with you.
South Hadley, so I think putting up 12 to 15 million is just gonna scare people.
Yeah. And especially that the fact that the costs will likely go down if we
It's a
get
lot of
access
range, 8 to
to
15
that right of way,
million,
the police
you know,
department
double
right of
Then
way.
suddenly we're talking 5.
Yeah.
You know.
But wouldn't you rather scare people initially and then like?
We had this discussion.
Yeah, and then they won't
twice.
vote.
We've done this a million times, but I will just say this, like, okay, so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail with it.
No, but this, yeah.
Having one vague number was odd to me. If we could nest them together, saying like South Hadley was this, Whip City, just to say that it's not a.
So I think we need to tighten up the language, but we can maybe include 3 sources of potential quotes, and at least you're triangulating at that point.
So I think what we can say is that one, potential private partner who operates a for-profit business, quoted us as much as 12 to 15.
Right.
We've seen another municipality which is very similar to us,
Right.
was able to do it for 8 to 10.
Well, they're still in the middle, so I would say a comparable community estimates.
Estimates, it would be
8 to
more
10.
like 8 to 10. But again, this is one of the reasons why we need to have a poll survey done, and we need to be in order to put this out to bid and get a real concrete number.
Right.
This is where we're showing this is the highest end, and this is probably more likely, but
Yeah. But I'm sure.
Anything else on that slide? Ongoing costs include maintenance, customer support, billing.
Right, and I can say these things will all be covered by the revenue generated from the service.
Could I include that? Covered by.
No, just
Well, like you said, some people are only going to see the presentation, so.
It can't hurt to put in that, maybe even in that bullet or below it, that these services create jobs in the community.
But if we farm out, if we suddenly outsource the management, the day-to-day management.
You could say these services may create jobs within the community.
hey, yes,
And it sounds like you're trying to sell something.
yeah.
Well,
But even if we partnered with Westfield or Holyoke or
a
South
local
Hadley or
job.
somebody, there's no reason to believe that the line worker or customer service person wouldn't
could say-
necessarily live in East Hampton.
GSET employed an Easthampton resident for 6 months.
Well, it is true that this would create some jobs
In the valley.
And
there's no
probably,
question there.
there actually, there needs to be, there's specific, I think there's specific, a few specific roles that need to be, in that, corporation that's
Right.
funded.
Yeah.
And those need to be,
You'd at least need a director.
yeah.
But I think that scares people more than the idea of like, oh, this is going to create a whole nother department. That was what the gentleman I spoke with, the guy who worked at Verizon, he's like, wait, are you guys going to like create a whole other set of jobs that are going to just require tax money in the future, or even though it would be potentially paid out of revenue? But, like, you don't want to create, you don't want to say
Yeah.
something we're going to like take on
Right. We're
more
gonna make this
overhead burden.
Yeah.
Right.
And hiring for municipal positions can be really, really competitive. Like this is an ongoing thing in the city. Is you get someone a certification and suddenly there's 10 other towns that want them, and it's like you're in a constant bidding war to retain your workforce. So there's reasons why some people get nervous about that stuff.
Yeah, so I think that last bullet addresses that there are
Yeah.
existing
Yeah.
places that partner very closely with municipalities to deliver the service.
And I don't think there's any requirements.
Because I think his other fear was that you guys don't know what you're getting into, and you're going to build this thing, and then you're not going to, you're going
Right.
to build this toy. You think it's a toy, and it's easy, and it's really difficult to maintain this.
So a lot of people feel that way. They think this is something that is like magic that
Yeah.
the average people could not figure out. And that's
Other
a legitimate.
communities have.
Of course, most towns consist of average people. So, most businesses, most like high-tech corporations live in town, so.
Easthampton, above
So,
average.
isn't above average. Yes, that's even better than Fall River. We'll try. That's literally their motto. That's actually their motto is we'll try. So is that the last slide?
That's the last slide.
Okay, so then we go to the survey
We're gonna go
results.
into the survey results.
Dan, I love what you've done here with
Yeah,
this.
not really.
Yeah, beautiful.
I can take those and bring them right into the PowerPoint if that's okay with
That's
you.
fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can just,
And let's look at the percentage ones if we can pull those up. 'Cause I can see how.
so did you?
Oh, and I shared them. I sent you also the pages thing, but I think I sent everybody just the PDF, but I can also send it as a,
You did it in Pages?
yeah.
Nice.
I tested a lot of different ones, online ones
Yeah.
and software ones, and pages was the thing I could get closest to quickly getting something that was configurable enough.
Yeah, I think it takes a while to.
Well, and that's the one I don't have on my computer system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I was using Google
The-
Docs, and Google Docs was a ugh.
The Excel results are not as nice as
No,
what Pages turns out.
Yeah.
So,
I don't, given that we often refer to our economy as an information economy, it doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility, based on our timing right now, that if progressives are successful in the coming presidential election, and if the Green New Deal happens, that may fund this.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren literally has said
Yep.
that she would, that one of her big things was to expand rural broadband, but even then she said, we also hope that cities would, so like, that's an actual thing that could actually,
Sure.
like, but I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket, and I don't want to get involved in electoral politics on a committee like this, but like, if, like, it is true that like, by the time that we are ready to like, really move on this, we may have a different administration that may actually take an interest in this kind of infrastructure investment, especially if we're in a recession, because these are basically shovel-ready projects that are job creators and that sustain economic activity afterwards.
Well, and make them look good because
And make
they're
them
ready to go.
Yes.
And they complete while these people are still in power.
Yeah,
so speaking of which, we don't mention on any slides that fiber or municipal broadband is a driver of economic development. Should we put that in?
so
language
It should be mentioned
somewhere?
someplace.
I mean, I know you're going to
We're gonna
mention it
have-
in your talk.
Well, we're gonna have the fiber slide, but I do. One of the things I think people don't appreciate is the needs that businesses, not all businesses now, but businesses will have when it comes to internet connectivity, especially when it comes to latency. Some people don't understand that there is technology in manufacturing and in the medical field, which absolutely depends on having this 0 to 1.
Yeah, and it exists now. I was talking to some business owners. Their point of sale machines are all basically iPads now.
Yes.
They're like square meter. And they say, I forget who I was talking to, it might have been Corsello's, but somebody was saying, my stuff goes out all the time. Like, it's just not
Yeah.
reliable.
Right.
And
the mayor was talking to one of the, I forget which, but one of the manufacturing companies in our industrial park, and they were even saying like, yeah, they've got technology that is constantly, there's blueprints and plans and all this data coming up on and off from their, their lathes essentially, right? And like that's becoming, if you're doing like the precision machining, and this area of Western Mass is like one of the big clusters of precision machining in like America. There's some excellent jobs in that field. This is the kind of thing that makes that company think of opening up here instead of Westfield, right?
Doesn't Westfield have a lot of aerospace?
Westfield has a lot of those jobs already.
They do a lot of
CTC is data intensive too, so
Yeah.
this would be a big bonus.
And a lot of this new equipment is controlled by cloud computing.
So I just sent to everybody on that list the pages file of what you have over here, so that if you need that to pull in info, it's easier than PDF.
Yeah,
Got it.
I think that's The question of whether, before we too much, let's just really quickly, do we think that should be another slide that we make, or do you think that's something that on the fiber slide Paul mentions?
I think Paul mentions on the fiber side, the economic driver, or driver of
Right.
economic development.
I think that's sufficient.
I can also say that this,
This is what's going to attract companies and
Right.
jobs. And remote employees are going to move, like they're, you can talk about that. Like,
I mean, and hopefully if we get lucky, some of the folks from the Chamber of Commerce and their members actually show up and make that point.
Was there an outreach through them?
I talked to Mo,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that we got into the.
And in addition to being an economic driver, it's also an education driver.
we could also attach in the handout maybe the language from the EDIC when they had come out in support of this initiative.
That's good.
We can include that too in whatever PDF we post online. We can include that there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it worth on the survey respondents to include the total number and maybe give some specs, like this was out for 6 weeks or however long this is what we
Then we can-
did to drive it. Here's how many respondents we had.
Actually, if we use the percentage ones, there's a really great place to put the total number of
Right there?
data points, which is right in the middle of the donut.
614.
I can easily do that too.
That's kind of a cool idea, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Total
I think
number.
that's better than having the dual percentage and respondents
Yeah.
in the
Right.
call out. Just have the
Yeah.
percentages of this number in the center.
yeah.
And say, yeah,
Very
600
cleaner
respondents. And
Right.
Yeah.
Like that we got 4 people who might move here.
Hey, I don't want them.
Right. I wonder if they're the same 4 people who answered other, because they probably have Comcast.
Or they may have Verizon.
Well, Verizon was on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm also wondering if some of these should have an extra decimal point of precision, because like the next one, there's a 0%, and it's like
Can you?
Oh,
maybe that's
yeah, I think bringing things out to
Or
one.
nothing.
no, I can do it.
I would say if you could manually
If there's
change that to
one-
0.8
Put less
or
than 1.
0.4 or
Less
Yeah.
than 1%.
Or,
I mean, I could have it be less than 1, or I could have it actually just be 0 point whatever.
right, I actually, when I do like the Donahue Institute writing standard is 1 decimal out for percentages. I mean,
I think if you're under 0, like maybe 0, like you just say less than 1%. And then you.
Yeah, I like the clean whole number on.
Okay.
On this, it's like a simple presentation.
So for things that are 0,
If people want to crunch the numbers, we can release the
Right.
anonymous data, and people can can run their numbers.
I'll add a
Really
decimal
want that
to
precision.
zeros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I like that, especially the percentage. I think it looks a lot better.
okay.
How long?
This is how long you've had your service for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I shortened it as much is because it's relevant to just what the previous slide is.
Yeah.
Because you'll be saying like, these are what people are currently using, and these are how long they've had them. I don't know. I don't know. Of all the slides, I think this, or of all the survey results, this one that we decided to include, this one might not be
You
necessary.
could actually take this one, make it much smaller, and put it in the bottom
In the corner.
here.
Or we could boil it to an average. How long?
It also doesn't really
What does it-
tell
It
us.
doesn't mean a whole
anything.
lot.
I mean, unless you had some sort of loyalty initiative, but
This
Comcast,
is,
or
right.
they don't, so.
We have a good
it's
mix
not
of
like
people who have been
you
here
don't have that
various
number
amounts
for
of time.
Yeah, if you had it for charter and say charter customers on average have stayed
Yeah.
more than 7 years. It just shows you how
I
locked in
think,
they
I think
are.
what's more important than this is the slide that says how likely are you to leave, or was there something like that?
I'm
Or
totally
to
in
switch?
favor
Yeah,
of getting rid
the
of
last
this.
ones.
This
Okay.
I'm happy to get rid of it.
entirely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Let's do it.
Yeah, just who do you have insurance satisfaction, that's a good transition.
Yeah, what do you have? Current satisfaction. So on a scale of 1 to 5, it could be worse. It
Yeah.
could be worse.
It's higher than
But we
expected,
also got to remember 0 is not an option, which means that more people chose 1 or 2 than chose 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and if you were to take this and
Put 0.
That would have
I know it would have been a lot better. I was really regretting it. But on a scale of like 1 to 10, this is a failing grade. If you're in grade school and this is your
Can
score, you have an F.
How about instead of the 2.94, can you have a bar graph of 1 to 5, and then it would show it biased towards the lower
Like a
third?
little timeline.
Yeah, like a number line, and it's here 2.94, and it shows it's.
I like
That's a
that.
good
I'll
point.
figure something out.
Because if you say 1 to 5, your brain still thinks 0 to 5, and
Right.
2.5 is average, so it's actually
So this is
above.
above average.
It is a
In
little
reality, this
But
is
on a bar graph, it would show,
Yeah, I actually would love to see that as a bar chart.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yep,
or like a number line, kind of.
good point.
What do you mean where the frequency of people's,
Yeah.
like what, like so
How many people said
so
one? How many people said two?
I was thinking just like a temperature meter.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know,
And
1
just
to
showing
5.
that
Well, what if you, I
Yeah,
mean,
and
the
an
real
arrow
tell
that says where it
is
is.
how
'Cause that's
many
too-
people said, like,
Off
you know,
scale,
if
but-
most said
but
1
it
or
would put it,
2,
you know,
Right.
there's only so many, you know,
2.94, and it shows
that's
it's
where
not quite
Yeah.
that way.
most, if most people
Yeah.
are saying 1 or 2. I don't know, it would be
But
worth
it
seeing
shows
that
it's in the bottom
drawn out as
third.
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
bar graph or a pie chart even.
I like this.
Okay. So let's do
Because
that.
otherwise your brain
Yeah.
includes the 0 even if it says 1 to 5.
Yeah.
right.
Good point.
Yeah. You want to be good bundled?
Yeah. So bundled services.
This one's tough because I don't love the percentage as a pie chart here because of the both thing. What might be nice to do if I can find a way to visualize it is a Venn diagram.
This guy confused me too when I gave
Yeah.
it.
Because it's really, the data here is Venn diagram-y because you have
Or you could
cable
just do
TV
a,
bundled, telephone bundled, both bundled, and none bundled. You know, it's like that's.
Bar chart would work too.
I was thinking bar
Yeah.
chart before you.
Bar
I mean, a Venn diagram would be the ideal way, but
Would the bar be TV, telephone, both, and none?
Yeah.
Or would you combine the both into the TV and the telephone?
Can you do them as like
Well,
bars where
none
they're
is
stacked?
really powerful because it shows you. I mean, there's your. If you get like, if there's 46% here and you extrapolated that to 46% of the population doesn't have, or even some number, 30%,
Doesn't bundle.
doesn't bundle. Those are your customers right there. That's your base.
Right.
Like
Like,
if you
even if-
can get a good
Even if you
percentage
didn't
of
get
those,
anybody who bundled, you
Right.
still have
you still have
a customer base.
big customer base.
you know, if you wanted, you could do a stacked bar chart.
That's what.
But what would the stack be?
So the one bar is cable TV, telephone, and both stacked into one bar, and then
None.
not bundled is the other bar.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
I see.
'Cause
You're
they're-
just
that shows
comparing
you're doing
bundled
that as a
versus
bar
not
and
bundled.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that seems to be missing here is internet.
Well, these are all
Well,
things
this
that
is
are bundled
bundled
with
with
These are
internet.
all people that are already existing internet
So
customers.
internet is the
So these are
basic.
your
Yeah.
solo internet customers.
Like I only
These
have
are your
internet from Charter, so I'm in that 46%.
I mean, this could also be changed as a pie chart to combine telephone, cable, and both into bundled.
Yeah, just-
And then it would just be bundled, not bundled, and other, you
Yes.
know?
Actually, though, to Stan's point, though, I can see how
What's
people might be
other?
confused if they're just glancing at this.
I don't know what
Instead of none, maybe we say internet
Get rid of
only.
other and just do.
Yeah.
Can we
Well-
just do get two?
Yeah, it could
And I
just
would even
be,
do two stacks, so you suddenly see like,
But
oh, you're.
to your point, the none should say internet only.
Yes.
That's what I'm, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what we just said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, I agree with that.
Yeah.
For that point is lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bundled
Oh, they don't bundle. What
internet
is that?
only. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
so are we deciding that should be a bar with stacks?
Well, I mean, if
If you can do
I think
If
if
that
you put it in a
makes more,
circle-
because it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard for somebody to see that and go, oh, they're basically the same.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you stack them side by
Yes,
side,
I
you
like
go,
the
oh,
stack,
that
yeah.
number is comparable.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try maybe two things.
And then maybe we put a big arrow and say, these are our customer, these are this is your base, or this is like.
They'd be the easiest to convert.
I think that would be best for the presenter to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Is
And
to
say,
just-
hey,
is to
this
just
is
say,
showing us
yeah.
half of our city,
Yeah.
roughly, has
And-
already cut the cord and gone to an internet-only service.
And then you talk about what Whip City said about the take rate that they were looking, what their business model is based on. Like, what did they say? How much, like 30%? Not even 30%.
I think they said 30% is their goal, and that they exceeded it in each.
So even if you extrapolated this to population, you would probably, like, if you could convince half of those people, you're already well on
Well, I
your
think
way.
we also have to, for extrapolation purposes, our sample is potentially biased.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's not 46% of the community, it was 46% of respondents, and the respondents had
6% of
All
Facebook
internet
users.
access.
had an interest in responding to a survey about municipal broadband.
Right.
So-
Right,
Yeah.
right. All to say, 600 people is a good amount.
Oh, yeah, no, I think
60,000
It's
is.
not
Yeah.
not to belittle the
It's
survey.
not, it's not a random
Yeah.
sample.
Yeah, it was not a random sample.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, that is true. All right, so we'll make that into a stack, though.
Yep. Stack and change the legend.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one when converted to percents because it doesn't total 100 because people could select multiple ones.
Right.
But
So this actually maybe you don't do as person?
I don't know. I did percent of the total responses.
I like the percents because I think when you're looking at the numbers, this doesn't really.
I like it more as percents too. I actually.
Especially when you're working
from home's huge.
58% of people work from home. I think,
Even if it's
not to contradict, but yeah, I agree that the percent show.
Like work from home, it shows the flaws in this survey, because like people who work from home are much more likely to pop on to
Yeah.
Facebook and watch things. The people who like are like.
But if you have 58% of 600 respondents saying they spend some percentage of their time working from home, you've got a lot of people in a community of 16,000 working from home.
Not to clutter it.
16,000 adults. I mean, it's even smaller when you look at working adults.
Yeah.
Is there some way, I don't remember the phrasing on the questionnaire, but working from home, not full-time. Is there some way to imply that it's working from home at some point?
Well, but like
Like part-time or more.
Yeah, like my wife works from home full-time. I work from home.
Well, I don't think the survey didn't distinguish between
It didn't
those.
say
Yeah,
that.
and it doesn't really matter. It matters if you're working from home and you need good internet access. And like,
You either need that capability.
And like maybe they would work from home full time if they like have better internet.
But are you saying like working any amount from home?
Yeah.
Like it might not be bad to have it indicate like working.
Because, I mean, I understand the data, but if somebody was like, what do you mean 58% of Easthampton does not work from home?
Right.
Well, this data
But they do
doesn't-
some kind of work from home.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's what it
You
does.
could say some work from home, or
Yeah,
some.
we don't need to get hung up on
Could
this.
be like.
It just,
But I know what you're saying. Yeah, it could be
Somebody could say,
construed as
like-
misleading.
This speaks to the cultural shift
Yeah.
of the expectation of being, a working adult and how people are approaching their jobs. Whereas in the past, it was like you're at work, you're at home, you're not doing work. There's no possible way for you to do your work. But now things have changed and people
I mean,
need.
they could just mean they're sending emails at midnight.
Could
to
be.
make it look like they're working, but.
Am I changing that to anything or not?
no, that was just
No.
Okay.
I think it's worth talking. I mean, I think this slide needs a little bit of context to say we gave people the option of selecting multiple ones that were important to them, and here's of those options, here's the ones that had the
Did we
most.
limit it to 3?
No, that was the other one, I
This
think.
was unlimited, right? Okay, that was the thing. Okay.
But these are video conferencing too. Is huge.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Trisha's not here, but she always brings up, 'cause she does IT,
Yeah.
how important it is for elders to be able to Skype with their grandkids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Video conferencing.
And, it also provides the school district a new way of providing help for kids needing remedial work or special needs kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, just before we keep going, I'm having this like very, very intense tooth pain and need to get to CVS ASAP to get the painkillers that they prescribed me, which my ibuprofen is very much wearing off right now. So if we could move this in a sort of purposeful pace, I would really appreciate that.
All right, so this slide, primary device, how important is this slide?
I don't think it's, other than saying what people are using these days.
I could see mixing this one.
I would say, more to your point of connections is more important than device type.
Total
device is very important.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider, the 6 to 10 and more than 10 is basically 50%. It's actually more than 50%.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Never mind, you got your smart fridges and stuff now.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you like me to turn this into a bar
I think that
instead of percents?
Yeah.
And I could, it could be like the other bar one.
Yep.
Okay.
Cutting
Cutting the cord. This is almost reflects the one that we did before about people who don't bundle and have already cut the cord.
Yep. I think it might be worth changing the color of this just to be a little more dominant.
I was actually thinking that to do
And this one a cooler color and this one a hotter.
Yeah.
to do already cut cord would be blue. Seriously considered would be
A shade of it.
green, and then already cut, and then
All right.
and then not seriously considered would be the yellow one.
Right.
I would probably have already cut and seriously consider like shades of the same color to sort of show,
Okay.
that percentage, that tipping point's already been reached.
Yep.
Okay.
I've got
When we're talking shades,
A
though,
cooler
let's remember that about an eighth of the people who show up are going to be colorblind. So, just
So
statistically
just make
speaking.
I would make this a cool color, but not seriously considered, so it receives.
Yeah.
And these.
No, I was actually already thinking. I was already like the colors and the implications are weird on that one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's a good point. All right, let's go on. Expected
this.
difficulty. This is great. This is a great slide. I love this. Out of the people who have done this, this is great.
Yeah.
Do
Would
we,
hire someone as a driver of economic.
do we need to clarify what difficulty with what in this slide?
The only reason I didn't is because it was
it needs a slide.
Because it could be
immediately following.
difficulty
Right.
getting hooked
We
up with us.
would probably, we're gonna need some context for people
Yeah,
who
okay.
are reading this
Okay.
offline.
Right.
Yeah,
So we will
do
include,
that.
I think maybe include the question somehow in the text, in the bottom corner for people that are gonna,
Yeah.
Just say expected difficulty cutting the cord.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was easy. Makes such an impact in this form. So streaming experience. This one.
Yeah, this one's hard.
This is a hard one. I don't.
Large.
Because what are we saying here? So people are saying, oh, we haven't cut the cord. That's the biggest one. Well, even if you haven't cut the cord, you still stream. And even if you have cut the cord, you're still streaming on the same internet service that you had before you cut the cord.
So do we care, do we need to present on this?
I just don't know what we're trying to say. Or even people say, oh, I don't miss cable. That's kind of the thing that's important because, out of the people who have cut the cord, this is the
I feel like we're
overwhelming.
trying to make a case for
should
appealing to bundlers, and we don't need to do that
Right.
now. Like we're already shown that
Well,
percentage of the.
I'm
the
not
market.
sure I 100% agree. I think that there's something to be said for saying, look, this might lead, there's a target market right here of already cord cutters who are already there. But there are also people who, out of the people who have cut the cord, a lot of them are fine with it, and it's quite possible that if other people decided to switch over to this, they'd be fine with it too.
Well,
Yeah.
but here's where I think it gets confusing. Is because yes, you're saying people who've cut the cord, they don't miss cable, and that's great. And then you get the next one. Well, these people have problems. Well, their problem is with copper cable internet.
That's true. All right, well, we can just cut it.
I mean, this one could also be titled cord cut experience. And the other thing that we could do is I could eliminate the ones that have not cut cord, and then presentize the remaining ones.
Yeah, because their experience is not relevant to this question.
Because, they have not cut cord is sort of NA almost.
And biasing everything
But
else.
then if we've got other too at 11%, we somehow have to break that out. So I don't even know how you would do
I think we
that.
should cut this slide.
Cut the slide?
I think in a time crunch situation, it's not
Yeah.
bad. It's a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's confusing because, someone who has never had cable may still have internet.
And we're talking about, these are marketing, like at
Right,
this point,
exactly.
this is what a marketing consultant would come in
We're
and
at
help
the end
us,
of the
where
presentation at this point too, and people's
Yeah.
eyes are glazing.
glazing
we
over.
really want to talk
What am I gonna
about
say
like,
about this slide?
quality
Yeah.
of service.
Yeah.
And,
All right.
we wanna get
Service
to the
outages, I do think we need that.
We
one.
definitely need service outages on here.
Would that one be better as a bar, or do you like it as
I
a...
like a pie.
No, it's
I like a good
works.
pie chart.
Do we want to do side-by-side service outage with disruptions per year?
They look kind of the same about that.
Is
They're
that,
almost the same that,
They are very similar.
yeah.
and you just have them side by
Well,
side? You could,
Service
If you can fit them and
I
still keep the font big.
I wouldn't...
you can fit them by putting the number in bold inside. Here,
then it's
you get rid of the line, like some of the complexity by taking out the lines, and you make that smaller.
Oh, and try and combine them? I
Well,
can...
not combine them, but just put them side by side.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So-
I'll try.
There was when we asked this question, we specified for a certain unit of time or more.
Right.
We should put that service outages,
Longer than-
whatever it was on the survey, on the
right.
question. Oh, it was 30 minutes,
Okay.
an hour, or whatever. So that people understand that. And then we have disruptions per year. I think if that was the same.
I can look at it and just provide some context, either in an asterisk or something.
Yep.
I really do feel like this
Yeah.
whatever I can say about this one, I can say about this one, and
Right.
do I say it?
It was that we had intentionally asked the question in two different ways to
Yeah.
see if we got two different sets of answers, and we didn't. We got
Yeah.
almost the same data set.
So do we
which is
need to
sort of a
present
check.
both? If it was just an internal check for our survey?
No.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
If
I
they're
think
both
that the
presenting-
service outages is good because it's multiple per year, multiple per month, multiple per week, or none.
Right, and then you're...
You know, and
Right.
this
It's
is
showing that
well
people,
per year. How
most
many do you
people
have?
have at least some kind of experience of an outage.
So maybe get rid of disruptions per year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just service outages is,
And actually, they're the same exact numbers. 311, 311,
Yeah.
225,
Right,
255.
it's
They're the exact same.
that was my thought.
Yeah, the top
All right,
priorities.
priorities. It
This
kind of
is
speaks
just
for itself.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to point out latency here and say a lot of people mistake the speed for latency.
Yeah.
And, you know,
But I think price being
Underappreciated.
the top is gonna,
Yeah, this is-
Price-
people are gonna
price
talk
and
about
reliability.
that. If
Price and
people come out
reliability.
and
This
talk
is
about
easy to
it.
understand, it
Yeah.
explains itself, so it's a good story.
yeah.
Consider switching.
This
This is
great.
powerful. I would make this a hot
I like
color.
that one.
And
Yeah.
I would make this a cool color.
You missed the main.
Or I would make these two similar colors and then know a
It's
cooler
like-
color that, again, the same thing. You don't. It just makes
Blue
these
and
two
green are
related.
happy positive colors.
Yeah,
Yellow
but
is a little
these-
bit
I like-
more than
But these two being related, suddenly they show. It should.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
It's
Yeah.
Maybe.
almost the whole game.
Okay.
right there.
What could possibly be other?
And if
No,
then,
or maybe.
On this
If
one,
they-
I wonder, can we just put, yes, maybe, other, no, like right by these percentages,
I go with the voices.
and then-
or even in the picture?
Last one, the forego discount. Do we need to cover this?
Is that in reference to
I would-
someone?
I
would
That
X
guy-
this one because
that
it's so
guy
similar to the previous
It
one.
also totally
Yeah.
confused me.
Yeah.
So-
Well, it was just me trying to shorten it into a title that would fit, but I would mix it.
right.
I'm so much in pain. Let's wrap this up.
Okay, is that
Any new business?
No.
I'm going to reach out to the public safety and the mayor's solicitor,
That was it.
figure that out. I'd also like to figure out when we can schedule in
Where next is?
South Hadley.
Yes.
Okay.
If you get a feeling that people would want to meet in October, and that would be fine, then let me know. I'll put it on the agenda.
Okay. Yeah, and whatever date they go for, I'll say October or November. If they can agree on one of those, I'd like to reach out to Sean in South Hadley to see if he'd like to do the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to.
Because
see.
I have to say, like, I met with him, and he's a very interesting guy. He was very involved in helping to set up Whip City Fiber, and then moved on. So this is his new project,
Yeah.
and I mean, like I said, it's not our job to be vetting these people as potential partners. That would be
Right.
the mayor's job, but it is really interesting to hear these various perspectives. So,
Agreed.
yeah.
No objection.
Yeah.
I realized I'm not a member, and I remember what I was going to do. I was thinking time. We need to convert over to using the mailing list, because I'm pretty sure that just using like a group of emails is like not quite like up to like public records.
It's
Actually,
completely
it is
up to
completely.
Yeah, as long as we don't have any discussion, it's for distribution, it's
Right.
allowed.
Because we don't deliberate on there, we don't vote on there. All we use it for is to schedule meetings and distribute information ahead of meetings. So we're completely in compliance with public records.
Yeah,
So
like
do we
I had an
need to-
issue with the minutes, so I replied to 2 people, so that was a non-quorum, so that was allowed for a correction.
We need a motion to approve the slides with the revisions that we just discussed, so that we don't have to.
I don't think we need to, but we can if it's second.
Yeah, the subcommittee has.
Aye.
Tom, amongst the people you're going to talk to, you're going to include Ashley? Is that what
Yeah,
this is?
absolutely.
Okay.
Are we adjourned? Are you ready?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.